Hello and welcome to the Ultima Microsoft licensing webinar. On today, the 27th of January 2026. This is actually a recording of the normally live session due to some technical issues. So we will be looking to run a live Q&A later on. My name is Gerrard, and I actually head up the licensing here on the Ultima side. I am going to be talking a little bit about the merger with Trustmark, and we have Sean Hanna, who is the lead on the Trustmark side. So I'll be taking us through these slides today. Moving forward, it's going to be something that you'll hear from both me and Sean. I think if you've been traditionally an Ultima customer, you're used to my voice, and obviously from the Trustmark side to Sean's. So on the agenda today, and like I said, I think the most sensible thing to start off is just a quick update in regards of the big merger that Ultima have done with Trustmark, and I'll cover off that. And then look, we will get into the content, and I'll start off by looking at some of the EA pricing updates, what we've really seen in the market over the last 3 months, how these changes have kind of impacted live renewals and live agreements and customers, and a little bit about what's going on with the future of EA and CSP. I will then also cover off the Microsoft price increases in the detail, and how this is what insight this is giving us into Microsoft, into their strategy, and ultimately where the risk is, but also where the opportunity as well. And that's closely aligned with current kind of incentives and discounts. So we'll run through the details, the next steps, and what is available to you. I do want to cover off both Teams and Copilot. Just some updates over the last few months, still very hot topics, before covering off some other generic Microsoft licensing updates. I want to then finish off by talking about Prism, a new optimization portal, which Trustmark customers will obviously be very, very familiar with, and talking about why that's adding a lot of value and a lot of insight into our customers' environments. Finally, there will be ordinarily there would be time for questions, and like I said, we can kind of cover them off in a separate session. It does make sense though to start with the merger between the two organisations. Those two organisations being Trustmark Group and Ultima Business Solutions. And those who don't know, is from the 1st of January. Well, we completed the merger on the 1st of November, and from the 1st of January, we are really acting as a single merged entity. And actually, we have the two organizations coming together. We have essentially formed one of the largest IT services businesses in the UK now. I think together the group provides pretty comprehensive support, expert-driven portfolio of kind of real end-to-end IT solutions. Some of the areas that Ultima did fantastically well is you can kind of boost up Trustmark's client base, and similarly, some of the excellent work Trustmark was doing, some Ultima clients can kind of now take advantage of some of this pioneering IP. So yeah, it's end-to-end IT solutions, and it's managed service, built to innovate, trusted to deliver, as you can see there on the screen. Really, when we're coming together, we are kind of creating a market leading force within this IT services sector. We are absolutely based in the UK, but with global reach, we can looking to adapt, to innovate, and to achieve exceptional outcomes. So it is more than just a merger. We really want to be able to provide our customers and partners with a comprehensive, expert-driven portfolio of real end-to-end IT solutions and managed services, with a lot of our own IP at the core. There's always been that question of what do you know Trustmark as, what do you know Ultima as, so hopefully this is bringing some clarity to this, that we are a service-led, expert-driven managed services provider, which is a lot of the similar conversations you would have been having with your Ultima and your Trustmark account teams and interactions anyway. We see technology as a way to deliver change and be a leader within that space. When I look across specifically the Microsoft accreditations through this merger, we've been able to Ultima have added to the Trustmark, and Trustmark have added to Ultima. Effectively, we've got all of the designations, all of the partner designations and the specializations, plus Azure Expert MSP. You always need to be a little bit tentative about talking about your Microsoft accreditations just because they change so quickly. As soon as we say we have all 8, Microsoft will release another one. So we're very conscious of the fact that very quickly speaking about your accreditations can become out of date, but I'm doing it anyway. Microsoft accreditations, we've got all of the designations and specializations and are in fact one of the only UK partners with this, which means that we've got all of these designations and support by having the resource in country within the UK. You know, we're not leveraging our support out in South Africa to say that we can deliver the partner support. No, services, absolutely not. These are UK-based consultants, UK-based expertise, so we can very much support across the full Microsoft stack. But let's move on to the bulk of the Microsoft licensing pricing. Sorry, the Microsoft licensing updates. And it makes very good sense to start with the enterprise agreement pricing updates. And as is always the case, and I will just cover this off, this webinar will effectively run through all of these changes. It will provide you with some detail and you will get a copy of the slides afterwards. So when we're talking about this percent, that percent, this change or the other, you'll get a full copy of all of this. I said, my name's Ian Gerrard, ian.gerrard@ultima.com. We have Sean Hanna at seanhanna@trustmart.com. Talk to your account teams, talk to your aligned licensing specialists, to your customer success managers. A lot of this information will only really become alive once you start working out how it directly directly affects your organization, your renewal, your roadmap, mitigate some of your risk or exploits some of your opportunities as well. So please do follow up and ask us to come in and do a in-person or remote kind of licensing session with you so we can make all of these updates come alive. But also we said we need to provide a level of detail, but it's going to resonate. Certain areas are going to resonate more than others, and there will almost certainly be follow-up questions that we just can't go into that level of detail in this call. But once you have those questions, do please contact me, contact your licensing specialist, contact your Trustmark/Ultima sales team. We'll be very, very happy to kind of look at it in detail. But you will get a copy of all of these slides as well. But this is, I just want to kind of, for those who haven't joined this webinar before, that's the kind of the level we're going at. We are providing some advice, providing some updates, we're giving you the detail, but we acknowledge there's lots of nuance to this conversation, and please kind of engage with us, take us up on some of our free reviews to just have these conversations with you so we can make this kind of come alive, make it relevant, or kind of discuss how to mitigate any risk. This is something I actually talked about in my last webinar regarding Microsoft removing the price levels from enterprise agreements. So from the 1st of November, basically, whether you had previously a level A, level B, level C, or level D, price level within your enterprise agreement, that has all basically been removed. So everybody has that same base price level. Microsoft have always effectively done price levels. So if you need to have 500 users to start an EA, start an enterprise agreement. And by doing that, by committing towards an enterprise agreement, you are basically given the best possible pricing by making that kind of 3-year long commitment. Then once you hit 2,400 users, you would reach level B, which would effectively be an additional level of discount. I suppose level A would give you 3%, then level B gives you 6%. Once you hit 6,000 users in level C, give or take 9% discount, and then level D, 15 users or above. The programmatic discounts, these price level discounts, before any commercial executive or incentives have been applied, would be getting a 12% discount, give or take. And that's what's being removed. So that is the increase from the 1st of November. A level B customer, before we even get to any negotiations, just looking at the removal of the price levels, would effectively be getting a 6% increase. So what has happened? What does this mean? What have we spoke about? I spoke about it when it was pretty hot off the press and just coming in, and now we are kind of 3 months later. What have we seen? So, look, customers with enterprise agreement renewals that fell after the 1st of November that would have basically been impacted by this price level removal. We may even be doing cost models, so even more of an impact if it would have been budgeted, been submitted for approval and so on and so forth. So one thing that we have seen that customers with EA agreements and renewals coming up after the 1st of November, but close enough to be actively discussed, we've been effectively able to either utilize the October price list, so before these changes came in, to mitigate, to kind of remove those price levels, or the second one, which is the key one, is that the Microsoft commercial executives, your CEs, were given a higher level of empowerment. They were basically given a higher level of discount sign off to say, oh, well, okay, you're a level B customer. We would normally offer you 10% to renew. Oh, we're now going to offer you 12%, but within that, they're trying to mitigate those increases across the price levels. That's certainly been the behavior that we've seen with existing enterprise agreement renewals, and actually making sure that the CE is either offering a higher level of discount to acknowledge the price level changes, or us being able to backdate the price list before these changes impacted. But we can only do this for so long, and that kind of cutoff is April 2026. So we can't really backdate to the previous price list once we're kind of in April. So then we are entirely reliant on engaging within that Microsoft account team with those commercial executives and getting them to basically discount away from the price levels. What we have seen is that they are, it's not like it's itemized out when they do these discounts. So we just need to make sure that they're staying on point and saying, hey, we have got you an amazing 15% discount. We've got you a 20% discount on E5. Okay, but Ultima and Trustmark would look to keep that CE honest, make sure that's still a good deal by saying, okay, well, actually, we need to incorporate the fact that 12% of that 15% is based on the price level changes. So just having this market awareness, holding Microsoft to account, and making sure that you're still, as a customer, receiving those discounts has very much been the current state of play. Now, customers, after renewing after the April the 26th, this negotiation becomes more difficult. There's less sign-off, there's less empowerment, and therefore it's even more close, more important to be more aligned with those Microsoft account teams, but also to understand the emergence potentially of the CSP agreement as a real viable alternative. Don't get me wrong, the enterprise agreement itself isn't going anywhere. But the fact that, why are Microsoft doing this? It's probably because Microsoft really see the enterprise agreement now being at least level B, potentially level C. So 2,500, or maybe even you can argue 6,000. You'd have at least 6,000 users for EA to automatically be the, so many nuanced conversations, but generally being the recommendation, you'd certainly need to be over kind of 2,400 users. Like with an enterprise agreement, it's a 3-year long agreement. It's still direct support from Microsoft. You can still get all the various different amendments that you may need, depending on your sector or your own business requirements, or sign off, or you're leveraging a group agreement, or you need the financial services addendum, or you have got multi-geo issues, you've got multiple tenancies cross country, you might need to bill in different currencies, myriad group agreements, franchise agreements, myriad of reasons, myriad of different requirements. You can still get those through the enterprise agreement. Discount incentives are available through the EA, discounting off pricing, the cost of a license. Unified support costs are still based on your enterprise agreement commitment. And then to get unified support, you would need to put those licenses into the EA, which suddenly becomes very, 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 very expensive. And Azure transactions are still through the EA. Call it the EA, you might have an MCA, a Microsoft Customer Agreement, where you've made an Azure commitment, your MCAA, Microsoft Consumption Azure. Oh, Microsoft Azure Consumption Commitment, MACC, or the MCA, the Microsoft Customer Agreement. Lots of different acronyms, lots of different stuff, but you do Azure through EA. Or, yeah, absolutely, you can do it through CSP. What is the future of CSP? If we just look 12 months ago, so different to where we are today now. Microsoft, with these EA changes and less discount incentives, less this, less that, less account teams, does mean that they're generally pushing corporate organizations underneath 2,500 seats towards the CSP agreement. They've then made a 1 month option on CSP. You could do 1 year, 3 year. It's generally supported by a partner, Ultima Trust Mark. So something goes wrong, you're calling up our support services. Look, we've got our unified support contracts with Microsoft that do get backed off, but don't get me wrong, that first call would be to the partner as opposed directly to Microsoft. The future of CSP is basically coming out cheaper than EA. Nice and clear, nice and straightforward, really, when we're looking at it. It's only once we get up to, like I say, around maybe that 5,500 or even up to 6,000 that EA does become cheaper. It does now offer a variety of different on-premise products alongside all the online ones. Mention about the billing as well, whether that's monthly, yearly, or triannually. You can do a 1 year commit but pay monthly, etc. It's a full self-service portal, a full value-added portal, whether that's end-user training from Ultimate Trustmark and optimization portals, access to funding, the benefits and the incentives that we're now seeing on CSP are quite close to matching those we see on the enterprise agreement. With the enterprise agreement and with CSP, if you're signing up for like a 1 year or a 3 year, you can lock the prices for that period of time as well. That's why it's so significant of 3 year coming on CSP. But then partly of that is to offset the increases that we know that are coming on the 1st of July, Microsoft's price increases. You will get a copy of these slides, but I just wanted to get down a breakdown of the price increases that are coming on the 1st. And let's look into this. Let's look into what Microsoft's strategy is here, because it's as subtle as a sledgehammer as always, and really won't be any surprise to anybody. All online versions, so this isn't necessarily, the price increases aren't necessarily for your Windows Server and SQL Server. In fact, they're not. This is for your online services. Microsoft 365 E3 is going up by 13%. Microsoft Office 365 E5 is going up by 8%. And actually, if you look at the differences between E3 and E5, both are going up, but E3 is going up at a higher rate than E5. Microsoft are reducing the additional commercials to jump from E3 to E5. They want you to go from E3 to E5, and they are reducing the commercial difference between those two suites, although both are still going up. And again, similarly, we see big increases on the business basic. Look, you can still, and actually these were the ones that include Teams. I think if you look at the no Teams version, the increases are even greater. But then if you think, oh, well, actually, if you break down Microsoft 365 E3 into its component parts, like EMS E3, Windows E3, well, those are going up in price too. And if you look, let's say Microsoft 365 E3 is going up by 8%. And EMS, your enterprise mobility and security suites, are like Entra and Intune and that kind of you know management and governance stuff within EMS enterprise mobility E3, that's going up 15%. So again, when we look at the individual components of the larger suites, everything's going up, but they're going up at an even higher rate. So they're reducing the price difference between E3 to E5 to make it commercially more interesting to go from E3 to E5. And they're also increasing the costs of the individual products within the suites like EMS and Windows E3 at a higher rate to again push the value of the buying the overall suite. Buy the bundle, there's more value. And actually, and I'll come on to it later in some of the other updates, and to be fair to Microsoft, they are putting more and more and more technology within the M365 suites. Look, I will cover it off and I won't get ahead of myself, but we've seen, in fact, I'm immediately going to cover it off and immediately get ahead of myself. So discount that, but like Copilot getting in there, like some Defender products, all part of E3. More and more, the correct thing to do is to assess service adoption and assess your roadmap. If your roadmap aligns with your service adoption, then we can align it with potential discounts and, incentives. Then it could be the right move for your organization. It could be, but you have to take this as a long-term strategic decision. It's not just a single thing to get a good price. Because it's great. We can get some we can get some discount pricing for E5 and then sit dormant for 6 months, comes up to renewal, and you've suddenly lost that incentive. You're questioning the value. So none of this is going to work if it's done as a one-off. Everything works better when it's that full pitch taken into account, as you know. Microsoft's incentives in CSP are real, and this does, honestly, this does surprise me, the number of customers who don't necessarily engage in what Microsoft are offering with their incentives, their workshops. You might have heard about MCI workshops, you might have had some delivered, or it might be something that you've always just not really listened to because it's just more sales waffle, etc. But to be fair, so these MCI workshops are kind of partner delivered, but Microsoft funded customer engagements. Okay, the idea being they are designed to help you really kind of understand, kind of experience that Microsoft value, validate that Microsoft cloud solutions. So at the end of it, you can kind of build better, you can kind of build better business scenarios and get more value from the technology that you've invested in. There's a huge number of areas that are available. I've listed some of them there, security compliance, whether it's modern SecOps, threat protection, data security and compliance, cloud security, defender for the cloud, whether it's modern work. I'm not going to run through them all, but modern work, identity endpoint management, zero trust alignment, whether it's Azure in the cloud, Azure infrastructure, security posture type stuff, cloud adoption, again, optimization scenarios. But the point is, but by attending an MCI workshop, you'll typically receive kind of visibility into your current posture. So whether that's security, compliance, productivity, or cloud, you kind of get an understanding about what your current state of play is. And then there's an identification of real gaps, real risks. And then we would use your own data to run demonstrations and to run trials. And then at the end of it, you're coming out with a documented roadmap uh, and recommended next steps. I realize just read the slide there a little bit, so apologies, but it does surprise. I mean, some customers take it, see great value. Other customers take it and think, oh, this is, we do scoping calls, make sure it's right. But there's so many don't realize what's available to them. And if there's one message that you should take away, it is please engage regarding the incentives that you might have already qualified for. Licensing discounts constantly changing, constantly extended, right now up to the end of June. These are high level, we can get you more than this. You might be sitting there thinking, do I qualify? Do I not qualify? It's always very, very tentative, and we have to caveat a lot when we talk about licensing discounts. But also, I don't want to be too high level and just reply you with fluff. So I want to put some specific numbers. There's a fantastic investment. There's a very interesting incentive out at the moment, which is a 40% discount on your Copilot licenses. But you have to have everyone on kind of the E3 license. You have to be buying it for at least 80% of your user base with a minimum transaction of 1,500 users. Actually, if you're doing that, you would then get a 50% discount when buying Microsoft Purview, which is their new information protection and governance suite, all kind of renamed to Purview, which is great if you're going to use it, which is going to be great. There's still offers available for Microsoft 365 E3, but just so many customers have got that now, you might not qualify. So we do say it can be bespoke. We can get you up to double-figure discounts, but we need to make sure it's not something you have bought before. That you're happy to commit for a full year, and you've got some of the base qualifying licenses. Microsoft 365 E5, again, similar, up to 15% just on year one. There are discounts available for year three, but not at 15% for each year. So it does matter about your deployment roadmap and when to take advantage of these. Again, you kind of purchased it previously, kind of with Microsoft are moving away from that concept of, hey, lock in a price, save yourself from the price increases that we reviewed. Yes, you can lock in a price. Yes, that will protect you from the price increases. But Microsoft have noticed this. What it would also do, it might invalidate you from some of the licensing offers out there. So you can lock the price to mitigate against a 15% price increase, But if you're not doing it at scale, it would only, you wouldn't, that would potentially invalidate you for the new to offer customers. Similarly with Copilot, if you're just, 40% if you're going 80% wide, but 15% if it's kind of, you know, 10 to about 300 odd users. But again, you need to check your qualifying licenses. So do please speak to us. But hopefully that provides you some insight into what the incentives are currently available. So many nuanced conversations. It's always a tricky one to cover off, that it really, really is. Teams and Copilot updates. So now I'm just going to run through these with a little less commentary and just running through them in the detail, specifically with Teams, just because there's been so much flip-flopping back and forth, and it is still something that comes up in a lot of the quarterly reviews or just in the general conversations. And it's more of more of a reassurance that actually the E1, the E3, the E5 licenses that you bought, bundles that you bought previously, will include Teams. It was removed, it was brought back in, it is now being included. You can still buy it without Teams if you wanted to do that. But if you had it inclusive of Teams, you saw that it was being forcibly removed, now it's been added back in, and all of that is played out and it's taken us right back to the start. So by default, naturally, E1, E3, and E5 will include Teams. You can purchase it without, but it does include Teams. This whole European Economic Union anti-competitive laws, which is the reason behind a lot of this, has resulted in Microsoft actually being legally prohibited from offering too many excessive discounts on Teams licenses. So actually, cut to 6 months ago, what we were seeing Teams premium discounts and this discount, Teams enterprise no more. No, no more. Not to the level that they were. I mentioned some of the Copilot updates, and one of the big ones is Copilot Business. From the 1st of December, it was introduced into Microsoft 365 Business Suites. It was available to kind of be bundled into those business suites. This kind of came from Microsoft Ignite. The business suites, for example, kind of qualifying up, hard limit of 300 users. But kind of quite similar to E3/E5, whether you're buying basic, standard, or premium. And what Microsoft will traditionally do if they're changing kind of licensing suites or they're just testing the market, they might introduce it at the business level and then escalate it and then cascade it out to the M365, E3, E5, so on and so forth. So Microsoft have bundled Copilot into the business suites from December the 1st, 2025. We can make some predictions. I don't think it's going to be this year, but you would say, hey, what does this mean? Does this mean we're going to see Copilot introduced into E5? Yes, very possibly. Or will it see a new suite coming, E6? That includes maybe the full Power Platform and Copilot? Yes, very possibly. I think in the second calendar year, we're going to see some very interesting changes as a prediction, which has been informed by understanding how they have generally introduced these. And Copilot for Business being introduced into those Copilot business suites is a big indicator of that. Copilot Studio is now built using Copilot credits instead of message-based metering. Microsoft did introduce Copilot Chat into Microsoft 365 E3, as we covered off previously. And again, lots of organizations kind of going, oh, what does that mean? What do I get? What don't I get? So you get Copilot Chat, which is effectively doing the web search and being able to upload some files to do your prompts and edit kind of in pages, but what it doesn't kind of give you is that organizational data access. So you don't get Copilot within Word, within Exchange, within Excel. If you've got the full, there's like a button in the top right, you tick that. Oh, see this data, do this with it, or see this, do that with it. That's organizational data access, and you do need the full Copilot for that. Copilot Chat is just the other piece, but you get a copy of these slides. But look, hey, the introduction of Copilot Chat into M365 E3 is another key indicator of maybe the lack of adoption, but the importance of Copilot and the encouragement for organizations to start adopting it more rapidly by giving it away as part of that E3, Microsoft 365 E3 bundle. Some other updates to run through, as we do have some key retirements coming up in 2026. I am not going to run through these. You can see them on the screen there, and you'll get copies. Windows Server Year 3 starting in Windows Server 2012, extended support, third and final Year 3 starting in October. We've got SQL Server and SharePoint in July of this year. Office 2021 in October. With moving on, Power Apps per app was rather dramatically removed from the. I was trying to use a better word than removed, more dramatic than the word removed. Exploded out of the price list on the 2nd of January. It has been replaced by Power Apps per app, kind of pay as you go, kind of as your consumption if you wanted to do it that way. Or if you wanted to kind of maintain the kind of still, buy the license on CSP kind of per user type license, that is Power Apps Premium. Microsoft Defender Expert Suite. Look, again, I don't know how relevant this will be to all organizations. It's got quite a high bar to qualify for it. It's only available through the EA, and you must have all your users on Microsoft 365 E5 as well. And it basically connects your company, with Microsoft's own security teams to address cybersecurity needs. So it is continual security alert management, incident response for cyber attack handling. It is Microsoft's enhanced designation engineering for long-term optimization. So really, really kind of cool stuff for a high level of cyber security, but only available to those E5 customers on enterprise agreement. Finally, Exchange Web Services update. So EWS, Exchange Web Services, is a legacy Microsoft API that used to allow software applications to access and interact across kind of Exchange mailboxes, things like emails, calendar content, stuff like that. It was actually way back Microsoft announced that EWS was going to be disabled in October 2026. So obviously that date is fast approaching. Actually, I think they initially said it was March 2026. They've extended it out to October 2026. But basically, EWS access will be blocked for all mailboxes without rights this year. So please be aware. Just make sure you have enough time to remove your dependencies on EWS if that's something that impacts you. I mentioned Prism before, and it's our value-added optimization tooling, and Trustmark organizations will naturally know about this. We've been speaking it a lot with the Ultima ones as well. We absolutely want to offer you a complimentary licensing review. So yeah, it will help you with figuring out when all your various renewal dates are, but really it's to gain that insights into your productivity of your users. Are there any compliance needs, or actually is there any kind of optimization, downgrading, license reassignment, removal that we can apply? And that's something that we would like to offer everybody who's joined this course. So please do let us know if that's something that you would like to take. Final slide is for questions. I'm not sure if anyone's made it this far in, so I'll ask myself a question, which is, will anybody stay this long on the webinar? The answer to that question is no, and I'm sure people will email me if they have actually got this far. We will be running a live Q&A. We really do want to talk to you. We really do want to see how these changes may or may not impact your organization. It's all about long-term planning. It's all about kind of understanding your roadmap and making sure you're taking advantage or mitigating the risk where you need to as well. But thank you very much for your time, and hopefully we'll go back to doing the live sessions next time as well. But for now, you can contact myself at ian.gerrard@ultima.com or sean.hannah@trustmark.com, or please just contact your account manager or your licensing specialist or your customer service representative, customer success representative if you'd like any more information that you've heard about today. Thank you.